Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, this is BestInSlot and welcome back to Cryptid Park, our Jurassic World Evolution series where we're trying to build a park tour that goes through several exhibits, all containing dinosaurs related to cryptids from around the world. Now, they may not resemble them directly. We're trying to get across just the feeling of the cryptid dinosaurs that bear some similarities in how they make you feel, in their approach, in their animations, in their designs somewhere, stuff like that. In the last couple of videos, we have first of all started off with the Mokele-Mbembe, we have a Bebe, we have Zarafa, and we have a Melendama, which means hidden things in Congolese apparently, which is pretty cool. And over here for our these were meant to be Mokele-Mbembe, I said that. Moving on, we also have over here our Therizinosaurus, which is representing the Mapinguari. So we have Liddy, because it's like a sloth. Very clever. We have Edward Scissorhands, who's in there somewhere. And over here we have BestInSlot. Get it? Beast, Slot. It's just works on many, many levels there. So, we're moving on today to another cryptid. And today's cryptid, I'm going to do a little intro bit. I wrote a lot for this one, more than I have for any of the others. I'm getting like really into it, so there's a lot of text on this one, so I'm going to be doing a lot of talking. But today's cryptid is the Beast of Bray Road. Now, there's one thing I want to say right at the start, is that I really appreciate all the suggestions. Those of you who give me tons of suggestions, please continue to do so. Well, if you feel like it, you know, it's fun anyway, you get to go and do some research and all that kind of jazz. A lot of the suggestions, and I had a comment about this last time, someone got oddly angry with me for using a Therizinosaurus, it was all a bit bizarre and daft. A lot of the suggestions are cryptids that are essentially dinosaurs. There's one, the name escapes me off the top of my head. Oh, the Partridge Creek Beast. And it is basically a Ceratosaurus. It is literally a Ceratosaurus that seems to have survived time somehow. And whilst that's obviously like very cool to have that sort of direct translation like that, I also don't think it's necessarily that interesting. So I am somewhat trying to avoid that for now. I think some of them will be dinosaurs. Maybe we'll do the Partridge Creek Beast. Maybe we'll do, you know, there's so many. The Kawaii, I don't know how to say that without going Kawaii Rex, although the Kawaii Rex, or how you pronounce it, is actually a hoax. Now, I know that sounds daft for a cryptid, but most cryptids aren't hoaxes. They're myths or legends, misinterpretations of animals, stuff like that. The Rex is actually a hoax, like a purposeful creation and a hoax. So it's a different kind of thing. I think we'll be skipping that one. But my point is, whilst that's interesting, I don't know, I find it more interesting to try and interpret the dinosaurs and the cryptids in a more ethereal kind of way, personally. But I think what we'll do is try and have a good match. Mix and match. So, the Beast of Bray Road. Well, let's start things off. We're going to make ourselves an Indoraptor. Actually, I should tell you what it is first, shouldn't I? We'll scroll down. I'm trying to make sure that all the screens look a bit different, so I'm not just talking in front of like a blank page forever. I need to think about the colours, actually. So let's talk about it. The Beast of Bray Road. It is essentially a werewolf, though apparently there was one page that says that cryptozoologists have preferred to call it a Bigfoot because a werewolf sounds too unrealistic. I'm just going to leave that one there. Anyway, the Beast of Bray Road. We'll talk about the description a little bit more later, but it's essentially a humanoid bear dog thing. Sometimes it's canine in nature, sometimes it's more bear-like, sometimes it's running on 4 legs, sometimes it's running on 2 legs. There's a lot of mix and matching there, but sometimes it's got this 4-legged run, this ungainly gait of, say, an Indoraptor, similar in colour. It pounces and hunts in this kind of strikingly similar way to what we would expect the Indoraptor to do, and that's what we're going to be using today. This black, grey, brown creature is said to lurk the rural roads near Elkhorn. Now, Elkhorn is a city, the biggest in the area, I believe, but it's only a city of 10,000 or so people. This is a rural backwater kind of place in Walworth County, Wisconsin. Now, fun fact, by the by, you do learn things here on the channel, I promise. Elkhorn is named Elkhorn because the name of the area saw some elkhorns in a tree. True story. So, the Beast of Bray Road. First spotted in 1936, roaming the foggy rural roads near Elkhorn. The first sightings didn't actually take place at all on Bray Road. Bray Road is a real road, but the first sightings didn't take place on Bray Road. They took place on Highway 18. Both of the first accounted sightings in 1936, and then later in, I didn't write this down, but I believe 1948 or something like that, took place on Highway 18. It wasn't until the 1990s and the late 1980s, but really the early 1990s, and we'll get into this in more detail, that the Bray Road moniker and location became a lot more popular, basically. Sightings of the beast had such a resurgence in the 1980s and 1990s, probably fueled in part by the werewolf kind of resurgence. You know, there was films coming out, werewolves were gaining a lot of popularity in general, but it became so popular and was at least beginning to be fueled that a local newspaper, the Walworth County Week, assigned a reporter, Linda Godfrey. She's going to be very important to cover the story. Now, she was initially skeptical, but she was soon converted to be a believer because the veracity of the reports was great and everyone was so convinced. People were so passionate and sincere about what they'd seen that she became a convert. And it was Linda Godfrey's reporting on this creature specifically that turned the Beast of Bray Road from this kind of folklore tale that had been mentioned a few times in history to this phenomenon, essentially. It became a very popular thing. Still to this day, Linda Godfrey, oddly enough, I actually read it for this video, although I don't think I used anything from it. Now I'm going to do colour-wise here. Probably Savannah. She actually has a website called lindagodfrey.com, I think it is. And she has a FAQ and an article and everything about the Beast of Bray Road. And she, according to the website, it was like a blog kind of thing, actually talks about and hunts down cryptids. That's what she does. And she never did that. She was barely even a reporter when she got this job. She was just working at the newspaper, I believe. And now, because of the popularity of the beast and everything associated with it, her career took off in this whole new bizarre direction where she is now a cryptid hunter, essentially, and cryptid reporter and analyst. Very strange how that happens. So anyway, wasn't the Beast of Bray Road. I couldn't find an actual name for it until the 1990s, but in the early 1990s, big resurgence. Linda Godfrey reports on it, becomes even more popular, gets named the Beast of Bray Road. We'll talk about it more in a minute. So we need to actually build an enclosure. It has never been seen, as far as I can tell, in a group of, 2 or anything like that. So we are going to stick with singles here. I need to have a little think about this, because at some point we're going to be bringing in an aviary. We are going to do a ropin, because I think ropin's really cool. So I want to do a ropin at some point. I'm just trying to think where we're going to put that. Probably here in the bottom left, right? Is it the aviary there? Yeah. We'll try to make that more interesting than just an aviary. It's kind of hard. Maybe it'll have to be as part of a double episode, or... Honestly, I spend so little time in these episodes actually building. I'm writing more and more each time, so does it really matter? Probably not. I don't think we're here for the building. We're here to look at the creatures and experience them and talk about cryptids. I want to thank you guys as well. I mentioned in the last video that I'd love to talk a bit more about this. Not in a Jurassic World Evolution context. I'd love to do dedicated videos. But I was struggling for a unique idea, and somebody, and I can't remember who, but I will double check for the next video. Someone had a really cool idea. I want to talk about that briefly while we do this. And that was, essentially, the idea would be to write a fictionalized report of the creature as though you're a journalist. And I sort of rolled with that. So what I was thinking is kind of like, as we delete many trees here. So what you do is you'd have a video where it's kind of like a diary or a journal or something like that of a explorer or a reporter or something, just somebody looking into the existence of this cryptid. You could do a reporter who's there for the cryptid, you could do an explorer who's hearing tales of the cryptid. You could mix and match and vary it up. Anyways, and so what you could do is you could have fictionalized, interesting sort of encounters with the cryptid where you'd be able to describe it as though it's described, as though, okay, let's pretend the cryptid is real. You could describe it in your journal. I saw this beast, and you could describe it, and that you describe it how it actually looks. But you could also have interviews as part of it, where you talk to local people, you could talk to historians and stuff like that as part of your diary entries, and you would therefore get the history of the creature in a factual way, because that would be quite hard to integrate. So let's say we're talking about the Beast of Bray Road, and you're a reporter and you're investigating it, so you're doing your journal, and of course I would be speaking this on the channel with background imagery and stuff like that. And I want to add a road here. Anyways, you'd be speaking to reporters, blah blah blah, and what you would do in the journal is you'd have your interview with a fictional historian, but the information you write in the journal as part of the interview would be the actual history of that cryptid. So you'd get all the factual information, but presented it in a slightly more fictionalized story kind of way. I think it's a really cool idea, and I will promise I will find out who told me, so I can shout them out a bit better than I have done. I think it's a great idea. Kind of like, I don't know how many of you read SPQR, which is... SPQR, or there's another book I read called The Weather something? I can't quite remember what it's called. But they're basically fact books, you know, they're telling the history of the weather systems, or the history of the Roman Empire, or the fall of the Roman Empire in SPQR's case, primarily. But they're presented more as not a fiction, but they're written as though they're a novel, you know, like a fictional novel. And it makes it a lot more interesting while still presenting real-life facts. That's kind of the idea. It means I get to write. I love to write. Anyway, so what we're doing here, by the way, is making a highway, essentially. Because it is often seen, the Beast of Bray Road, on the side of roads and stuff like that. So I figured like a nice straight line where you go down there. So we're going to cover the sides with forest to kind of have that there. We're going to have maybe like a little farmhouse or something as well. We'll get to this in a little bit. But a woman did see it approaching her from across the farmhouse. There's lots of cornfields in the area, and the beast is often seen there. So now that we've done that bit, and we wait for our Indoraptor, we're only going to make one, although I might make a default one. We're going to talk more about the description, but it's usually a black, grey, brown kind of colour. I'm going to make a jungle, and I'm going to make a default. So, next paragraph. What does it do, and what does it look like? If it was stalking these forests right here that don't exist yet, what would it do? The descriptions, like I said, they fluctuate between being very humanoid, almost like a mutated kind of man. There's actually a awful looking film in the mid-2000s called The Beast of Bray Road, and it looks very humanoid in that film. To essentially a big dog, to a bear, and even a mix of bears and an apes, and, you know, like this bastardized, unholy mix of the two. It's usually brown-grey in colour, walks on either 2 or 4 legs. It hasn't, as far as I could see, actually attacked anyone or hurt anyone at this point in time. There were no deaths in the early 1900s attributed to this creature, and that's usually where you would find it. A number of people have seen it tearing apart roadkill and felled deer. There's a lot of deer in the area, sort of in the mists of these backwater roads. And in the early 1990s, a woman reported the beast approaching her from across the fields beyond her house. This kind of hunched, monstrous beast. Its eyes, usually yellow eyes, focused on her intently, fearsome determination. And eventually she called for her husband, and he scared it away, I believe, with like a rifle. But it was... I get the impression it's always seen as aggressive and not scared of humans. It just happens to have not killed one. It has been reported to attack cars and like ram into the side of them as they're driving and stuff like that. It's safe to say that in the 1980s and 1990s in particular, the early 1990s is like the hot point for this. It was feared. This was something that scared the locals. When Godfrey began to do her initial reports in the early 1990s, she found a huge number of people had actually had very similar experiences in the region. But they were kind of fearful of coming out about it for fear of ridicule. You know, oh, what did you do last night? Oh yeah, I saw a werewolf. Like, most people aren't really going to go for it. So people kind of were a little too scared to come out until Godfrey began to report on it, and then suddenly there were this huge number of reports out of nowhere. I will say this is something that happens a lot, and you could kind of take it either way. Usually, let me find where I'm writing here. After a cryptid, or really just any similar odd experience, you know, UFO abductions and stuff like that, as soon as it begins to gain sort of widespread recognition, people start to attribute every similar experience they've had. You know, 10 years ago you saw a dog in the woods, something like that. People start to attribute it to the same phenomena, no matter what they really saw, even if it was just a bear. We'll get to bears later on. Because I think in part, you kind of want to be part of something like that. You know, if you're hearing the entire town's had this run-in with this monstrous beast in the woods, I think you, in a weird way, kind of want to be part of that. You want to be part of the story, right? You want to, you know, oh, I saw the Beast of Bray Road last night in the mist, and oh yeah, I saw it 10 years ago. It becomes like a cultural phenomenon that becomes its own beast, essentially. And people kind of start to jump in on it, even if they didn't necessarily experience something that would normally be attributed to such a creature. I do understand the fear they had, though, it must be said. These are small rural communities, they really are, with dark roads and these impenetrable walls of forest, and they make for a classic werewolf-esque scenario. I can imagine how easy it is. Imagine, late at night, you're driving down one of these fog-laden tracks, and you spot this black, beastly shape before you on the road. And I think it'd be very easy to believe that's something supernatural and otherworldly. That, by the way, is why I live in cities, always. I've always lived in the city, because there's no werewolves, just knife crime, and obscene levels of pollution. Winning. Right, let's have a look at this Indoraptor. I think we're probably leaning towards the default. Maybe we're not, though. I quite like that. It's cool. It's got the four-leggedness and the bipedalness. It runs on both, which the beast is said to do. It's got this ungainly, long-limbed kind of shape. The Indoraptor does have slightly humanoid qualities to it, I would say, in how it functions. It's monstrous in a lot of ways. It's hairy along the back. Well, it's got the quills, kind of hairy. It's the right sort of colour. I think this is probably the one we're going to be going for. I'll pop out the other two as well, but that one is definitely winning for now. So, we'll take a break. I've only got one proper paragraph left and then one little baby paragraph. Let's design the actual enclosure, shall we? Talking a lot today. So this is really the area I want to focus on. This is the main road. This is Bray Road itself. And as with most cryptids, what I really want to do is kind of have this feeling of... It's a shame it doesn't look like an actual road. We might put some rock down. I was going to use the path tool and do this kind of thing. What we might... maybe... I want to put that over there, that would be great. What if I landscape some stone like that? I do think that's an improvement. I don't think any of it's going to look like a road, but I think this looks more... It shouldn't look like the rest of the tracks, right? The rest of the tracks are just muddy tracks through the Congo or through... where did Mokele-Mbembe come from? The Congo? I actually can't remember. Why don't I remember where the Mokele-Mbembe was found? Oh, Africa. No, wait, no, South America. South America? Yes, Brazil. In the Amazon, the Mokele-Mbembe. So it wouldn't be... You wouldn't expect, anyway, asphalt proper roads like this, necessarily. Whereas this is, highway, basically. Highway 18, where it's first spotted, and then this is Bray Road itself. So I just wanted to stand out a little bit. Tree-wise, I just thought about this, but maybe what we should be doing is actually focusing predominantly on the redwoods. Because it's America, right? And it's this kind of environment. It's this kind of tall forest kind of thing. I'm going to keep the other trees in there as well because you need them, otherwise it looks a little bit flat in my opinion. But I want these really close to the road. Again, I want you to feel... I just have this vision of driving down this dark road. Mist everywhere. It'd be nice if we had mist in the game, by the way. And these tall, thick walls of trees at the side, and you see this beastly figure gangly lurch itself out from the tree line and into the road before you. Or as you're driving along, you see it, gorging itself on a dead deer at the side of the road. I think it sounds really cool. Not for the deer. Probably not for anyone who sees it, but I like it anyway. Yeah, we're going to go hard on the trees. I'm just going to use the triple because triple's easier. Control space. I wish there was a way to... I thought it did do this. Control space does random rotation, but you have to click it, basically. It'd be nice if every time I put one down, it just randomly rotated, But hey, beggars can't be choosers, eh? Beggars can be choosers. I've had a lot of questions, by the way, I'm just going to talk about this briefly while I'm doing this. I've had a lot of questions and stuff asking when I'm going to do a new Planet Zoo series. I really want to do a cryptid series on Planet Zoo as well. This is totally something I'm obsessed with at the moment, and I think Planet Zoo would be really good, and I've got a little bit of an idea. I really want to get back into Planet Zoo. I will say, my problem with Planet Zoo is not the game itself, never has been. I really like doing the exhibit design, but the problem with both zoos I was building, and the other Surround in particular, is that I spend most of my time doing the bits between the enclosures, the pathways and the shops and stuff like that. And honestly, shop design and stuff like that doesn't interest me, really. I like building enclosures, right? That's what I'm here for. So I like the idea of doing like a tour, kind of like what we're doing here in Planet Zoo, where I don't do shops or fancy pass or anything. We just focus on building cool enclosures. Very cool. Very cool. Yes, love that. I'm going to put more trees in. I want the redwoods to stick out, but we do need these, or it doesn't quite have the thickness you'd be looking for. We'll see. We might end up getting rid of some of these, but around that bit at least I want to put some in there. It might be too many. It's this road in particular. This is one I want to focus on. So let's get rid of some of the trees that we don't want. I don't want that one there. I think that looks really cool. I mean, at night time with the mist, I think that is very, very cool. What I'd like to do is maybe make the ground. Let me see what I can do here. What's crag? Yeah, just darker, basically, dirtier, browner, less green and vibrant, essentially. Yes, look at that. Bray Road looking terrifying. I want to flatten it out as well, because like I said, it's meant to be a proper road. Come on, Bray Road. Come on, buddy. You and me. We got this. I'll just flatten it all the way, and then you'll... A little jinky bit over there. But we'll ignore the jinkies bit, and we'll focus on this bit. I kind of want to put, like, Let me have a little think about this. I know it doesn't say Bray Road, for obvious reasons. I just have, like, a little sign on there as well. Just pretend it's like a road sign, you know? And... I'm trying to think about the lights. It's like, lampposts. I don't want many of them, because I think having no lights at all is less spooky than having some lights. You want a little bit of light, because you want that fear of, like, highlighting what is actually out there in the darkness, you know? Right, with that done, let's get into our final info paragraph about the beast. So, this is the interesting bit for me. So whilst the Beast of Bray Road had this resurgence, and indeed was actually named in the 1990s, it's worth remembering, as I say, the first report came about in 1936, and the origins and tone were quite different. The Native Americans in the area are pretty fearful of a creature called the Wendigo. Now, the Wendigo is obviously well known in Native American folklore, especially in Wisconsin, which is right next to where we're talking about here. We're going to get into the Wendigo later on. Somebody has already suggested a dinosaur for it. Actually, a few of you did. Wendigo is very popular as cryptids go. I'd say it's more of a legend than a cryptid, but it's definitely something we're going to cover later on in this video. Anyway. Now, Wendigos are fearsome, shape-shifting creatures, man-made beasts through greed and lust and hunger, and eventually they take on this desire to eat human flesh and stuff like that. Over the years, they've been depicted in many forms, but most of these, or a lot of these at least, are actually somewhat werewolf-esque. They're scraggly, fur-clad, four-legged beasts, sometimes walk on four legs, sometimes more often, I'd say, walk on two. And they stalk humans in the depth of night. They crave human flesh. They are cannibalistic. These ex-humans are more legend than cryptid, as I say, but they influence a huge amount of Native American folklore. No, I digress. The first sighting, back in 1936, describes the Beast of Bray Road. I guess just the Beast, we'll call it for now, because it would be back then, on Highway 18, as I say. And it was at the side of the road. This half-man, half-wolf creature digging, burying its paws, its gangly fingers, into this Indian burial ground. Burial ground, I should say. Mound, I should say, that's the word I'm looking for, on the side of the road. One sec. Oh yeah, so there we go. Not only tying in with, you know, the folklore of the Wendigo, but also their penchant for human meat. Now, did the Beast and all the subsequent discoveries of the Beast of Bray Road all originate from this man fearful of the Native American tales of the Wendigo? I think that's very possible. That's my personal theory on it. He described it as this large, with the features of a canine and an ape. Wait, let me find where I am. Yeah, with twisted thumbs and only 3 fingers. A lot of these details, I think, got lost in time. It definitely became more of a classic werewolf. But I think, again, that can be attributed to the werewolf craze of the 1990s anyway. There was, of course, it's a cryptid, a foul stench emanating from the beast, and when he returned, because he's bloody insane, the next day to see if it was still there, it was. And this is where it gets interesting. The beast spoke to him, it turned to him and said the word Gadara, like that, right? Before disappearing back into the umbra of the wilderness. Now, Gadara is actually a city in the Bible that Jesus visited. And when Jesus went to the Gadara in the Bible, he basically committed an exorcism. He drove out the demons from these demonic men. So, you can see the ties there, really, between the two. Whatever the recent sightings are, it seems that the beast, the story of the beast, which inherently sounds religious to me anyway, definitely originates in religious messaging and indeed religious fear in some ways. A lot of this is kind of my own personal interpretation of the events, but I definitely get that impression. That looks really cool. Right, let's have a look at these other colours. I'm not convinced. I've got a little thing at the end about what it actually is, but it's a very short paragraph. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm committed to the one I've already got, so let's get that sorted. There you go. Pop out the other one as well. May as well. I don't know, they've got so much colour on them. What we really want... I mean, this one's got a bit of brown, but it's too brown. I need, like, subtle brown. I think the white one, the black, the grey, is more appropriate for the creature. So, we'll do that and get it transferred over onto our enclosure. There we go. I don't know what we're going to do over here. There's so much room. We might have to double up. Like, you know... So, probably one last exhibit looks like this sort of pizza. That's going to be there. And then maybe you go through here, and then you go through here, and you curl into there, and then you curl down there, kind of thing. This area is humongous. Let me find the cryptid. That's the one we want there. Let's move that over. We're only going to do one, like I say, it's often found on its own. And I think... I don't know, that's just more fearful. This solo beast stalking the woods. It also makes it seem more legend than real animal. You know, there's no word of it breeding or anything. It's just... the Beast of Bray Road. It is the Beast of Bray Road. It's not multiple beasts. It's the beast. Not going to put any water in because that doesn't really make sense. Oh, I wanted to do a little farmland, didn't I? I forgot. Right, okay. So what we'll do is we'll clear the trees down here. I love that noise. And we'll flatten the area a little bit. I'm going to flatten down rather than up, actually. Okay, and I just thought about this. That can be the farmhouse. There we go. Beautiful. And we'll do a little path. I'll actually do it in dirt, though, I think. And that's how they get back onto the highway over there. And they've got like a little cornfield area over here. I'm going to go nuts on this, obviously. But there we go. There's our little farmhouse. Yeah, perfect. I think you'll all agree. Okay, cool. I like it. Like this a lot. I really like that. Like I said, I'm not too worried about all this stuff. This isn't really the focus of the playthrough, if I'm honest, but I'm going to try to smooth this bit out. That's a little bit of a rough one for me. Like, a road can go up, but doesn't tend to go zoom and like jut up quite like that. So let's try to smooth this out just a little bit, shall we? How are we looking? Other than that little bit there, but I think that's because of the tree. I think that's okay. It's maybe a little bit higher than I'd like, but what are you going to do? Okay, so that's our Indoraptor, that's our Beast of Bray Road gets delivered. Remember to name this in the QT, which is linked down below. A lot of you did leave me name suggestions, cryptid suggestions, I should say, on the QT. Please don't do that, that's not what the QT is for. I am disregarding the cryptid suggestions in there. It's just because I feel like there's a fair way to do it, and basically, if I start to change that around, it's not fair to people who played by the rules, essentially. So, cryptid suggestions, comment section down below, name suggestions, and it is the only place I take name suggestions in the QT down below. And it's a Indoraptor, so it would be under the hybrid section. Bearing in mind, we're looking for here is a ferocious beast. You know, a hairy werewolf-esque creature. I'm going to put a feeder in. And I'm going to put it... I kind of want to just put it here. It's a shame you can see the actual feeder, but the idea being the creature is often seen eating roadkill on the side of the road. So as you're driving along, and what I'll do is I'll try to cover it up a little bit with some plant life. I'm going to put a little bit of tree in, I think. What if we can get a... I want to obscure it a little bit. I don't want you to just see that from miles away, you know? There we go. So you can't actually see it as you drive along, and then you come around the corner, and you'll see it, and you can't really... You can see the feeder, but it's a little obscured, and you'll see the beast feasting on the roadkill at the side of the road. That's very cool. Where is it? You'd think, oh, it's got... Oh, we have to actually give it water, don't we? Wait a minute. Let's make it nighttime. Okay. And capture mode... That's very cool. That is proper horror movie stuff right there. I love that. And the lights help. I want to add a couple more lights, I think. There's the Beast of Bray Road. Yeah, that's great. Honestly, that's really good. That is very similar to what I'm looking for. Maybe too many trees of the tropical variety. Might have to knock those out a little bit, add more redwoods, but still, big fan of that. So let's finish off. What is the beast in reality? What are people actually seeing out there in the wilderness? Because people are seeing something. There's too many reports for people not to be seeing anything. But there's a lot of things it could be. It could be a wolf, it could be a coyote, it could be an undiscovered version, like wild dog species of some description. Indeed, as the TV show Legend Hunters suggested in one of their episodes, it could be a bear with mange. Now, mange, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, is basically a skin disease caused by parasitic mites. And what it does is it causes fur loss, as well as scabbing, and just general skin deterioration. In severe cases, it can actually look really, really bad. If any of you have dogs, you may have had this problem in the past. And if it gets really, really bad and it's untreated, it can look horrific. And it could absolutely give bears, dogs, and other mammals this kind of mutated and genuinely fearsome sort of look to them. Spotting a bear inflicted with a severe case of mange, or even a coyote or something, or just a large dog with a severe case of mange out there in the wilderness in the dark, would absolutely look, you know, like an otherworldly creature, like a potential werewolf, and actually very Wendigo-esque. Wendigos are often depicted as having skin sort of draped over them or falling off and kind of tattered, and mange definitely gives off that appearance. And there are black bears in the area after all. So, for me, I think that's the more likely choice. And I think, as with most cryptids and stuff like this, people are seeing it in a spooky, scary situation. It's a nighttime. It's often foggy. You're in a rural community where you don't necessarily feel safe out there alone at night. I mean, you probably do more than the city, but the point is you're not alone in the city because there's always 10 billion people around. So I can totally see how something like that would be interpreted as the beast, essentially. I love those noise effects. Let's get some more lights on. It's got this awesome, fearsome feel to it, this whole area. I'm in love. I'm in actual love. I'm going to light the sign up as well. That is very cool. That is very cool. That makes me very happy. Bray Road, ladies and gentlemen. Right, well, we're going to end it there. That is the Beast of Bray Road. Yeah, really fun one, this. Started off as just a werewolf. I wasn't that interested in it, but the more I read into it, and I did more research for this one than I have for any of the others so far, although I know it came across a bit higgledy-piggledy at times. What was I saying? It becomes a fascinating creature. I think the Indian folklore aspect to it and the religious messaging inherent in the first discovery is actually really, really, really interesting. I'm not sure what we're going to do next. Some people have suggested a few that I quite like the bunyip. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. The Wendigo we're definitely going to do. The Ropen we're going to do. I was going to say maybe with the aviary the Ropen's a bit of a problem, but at the end of the day I spend all these episodes talking about cryptids anyway. I'm not going to work on my own cryptid series until this playthrough is finished, but it is giving me some ideas, you know? Which is pretty cool. Oh, you need some water, don't you, buddy? I really want to get him in front of the lights. I'm going to put the water over here, I think. I don't need much, I just need any. I just need any at all. Bear with. Bear down for midterms. The hell? This is becoming a struggle. I'm sorry, Indoraptor. You're going to die. I don't know. Tell you what, put it over here. Maybe? There we go. Bloody Nora. Hopefully you can find that. Just say they've got like a little lake by the farm. Easy peasy. Right, so thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, please do hit the like button and all that kind of jazz. It really does help me out. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it makes all the difference in the world. Times are a little bit tough, so, you know, all the likes in the comments, they really do mean the world to me. I'm really glad you guys are enjoying this and you're resonating with this series, and yeah, I'm really excited to hopefully show you some more stuff down the line. This is definitely our, I think I'd say, one of the less obscure cryptids in general, one of the most known in American folklore. I'd like to do something a little bit more obscure for the next one. I'd like to mix it up a little bit. It'd be cool to introduce some cryptids to you guys at home that you've never heard of and stuff like that. And then we'll also be knocking off some classics, you know, like the Wendigo and stuff like that, and the Ropin as well. For me, Ropin is a classic anyway. I don't know if it is in general, but I definitely count Ropin as one of the better known cryptids out there. Right, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you lovely folks in the next video. Cheers much love as always. Bye-bye.